Any que- Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Cooper Lake improvements.
Couple of things. The lake is up to 8.1 feet, thank God. We were down to 11. I was a little nervous for a while.
How much rain did we get?
I didn't ask that question.
Too much.
Well, yes, that's a good answer.
Too much.
Because most of it already happened in July and I don't have those totals
Right.
yet. But I know, it's been, just looking at the live pictures of the stream, it's tremendous. It hasn't, it's been probably 4 or 5, or probably we had a month's worth of rain in the last couple of
I
days.
mean, I think after we started treatment plan here in Kingston, we've had, just in the last week, over 5 inches.
Oh, yeah, no,
Like, I was just curious, 'cause, yeah, I mean, it seemed like it was raining every day, and we had pretty heavy storms.
well, and then the storms come through and they dump an inch and,
Yeah.
20 minutes later it's over and.
Well, I was in Woodstock on Monday, and Millstream or whatever comes down through there was really raging, so.
Well, and so was what do we call it? To the point where we had it closed for several
Well,
days.
yeah, I was
because it
wondering,
was-
if it's because it would be just chocolate.
Yeah,
No,
we don't want, we're pretty selective on what we take, especially when the lake's that low, because the way the water patterns of transport in that body, when the lake is up, you can take some chocolate milk and it will settle out in that first basin. When that lake is down and you can see that little isthmus going across there and
Shoot in there.
it shoots right over the intake. It's amazing how that makes a difference. So Derek's been really good. He only takes, but we come up 1.5 feet. So
Okay,
we're doing better.
it's open now?
Wide open. And we're taking 16, 17 million gallons a day. Because we now can record that, so.
Okay, good. Okay.
So, we're having weekly meetings, phone conversations on Cooper Lake. Contractor was supposed to tell us when he's gonna bring stuff up and mobilize, but he told us today that yesterday he delivered a lot of heavy equipment. So we're mobilized, we're in the process of mobilizing. We already met up there, we've done a lot, so he has access. So we're starting, I don't have a implementation schedule for what's happening yet, but I have a conversation with Greg tomorrow to be able to nail that down. I'm a little concerned that we have a requirement in there that on the water portion, the $8 million portion, that they have a requirement to meet EFC's MWBE goals,
Mhm.
and they're nowhere near that. And they're like, well, we made a good faith effort. I'm like, yeah, that's not good enough. So, I mean, this may kick over you, but they probably have to be given an opportunity to submit and request a waiver to EFC, which they can do. But I don't think EFC is going to accept $200,000 worth of MWBE work when their goal is 2 million. I just don't. Unless they have some really good creative reasons for it.
That's up to them though to get that.
I'm the MWBE officer for the water department, and yes, it is up to them. I have to sign their application, which I'll do. And then it's up to EFC to do that. And then if they get turned down, our contract says they still have to meet those requirements, so they're gonna have to do something.
I got a note from Environmental Facilities Corporation, something about funding deadline of July 16th. Is this related to that? Okay.
That's to get on the utilization plan for the water. We're already there. We have no other.
So.
If you wanted to know, no, there's nothing you have to do. No. I think because you're listed as our council, you get all the stuff that we all get. Mayor gets it, Matt gets it, I get it. But I guess they don't want to miss anybody. And then tonight, we have, Bill, you looked at this a long time ago. If you want to look at it again, you're welcome to. It's a contract with New York City DEP, and it's our agreement to pay them. I mean, there's two permits you require, or 2 agreements we need with New York. One is the land use permit, which we already have. That's all set up, and that says we can go on their land and we can set this up and we can construct whatever we need to construct. This is the agreement that tells, the terms and conditions of the supply. We approved it a long time ago, and I got it back and I was gonna sign it, but our resolution, they want want our board resolution, and it said that the president would sign it, so we don't have for signature, 2 copies.
So you need a resolution, or is that already?
We already have the resolution, I already have the resolution upstairs, I just need the signatures and we're good, we'll submit that.
So that's actually an agreement for what?
To purchase water from them,
Okay.
and that's the legal agreement to purchase the water. There's a lot of appendices in here that they want all our interconnections with other communities. Just because the way these agreements, I think the way the way their DEC water supply agreement is, any water supply in Ulster County has the right to obtain water from their pipelines and their reservoirs. If you meet their terms and conditions, which we have. And then you're limited to their per capita consumption. And we're asking for much less than our per capita consumption. But so they also need to know who you're selling the water to, so they can get that number in their head. So I'll look it over again.
I remember it well.
So
All right,
Judy-
cool.
Judy, I'm sure you've talked about this. So there isn't a line running to their pipe yet, so
There is not.
are we going to run one or only if we need to?
But only if we need to, we're actually gonna run the pipe.
Okay,
But we are going to put in permanent aspects of that. On the Shokan side, we're gonna put in electrical drop. So that, because you gotta have, they won't let you have a diesel or gas powered engine to pump the water out, to suck the water out of the reservoir, which I can understand. So it has to be an electrical driven pump. And so we have to have the electric drop there. Then we have to cross 2 roads. One is Route 28. Previously, when we did this, we slid the pipe through the culvert. When you stand there on the reservoir road where that triangle is, and you look across towards Stewart's, you can see that the culvert that we used to use is flat. So we have to directional drill our own conduit under there for the pipe. And then we have to do the same again on Sawkill Road. So we'll do that. And then we have to put in a valve on our property by our pipe by the pretreatment building on Sawkill and Xena Highwoods, so that we can actually open a valve and let the water go in. And there'll be a meter in there and all that other
and
stuff.
how big is our line? Size?
Geez, I think we're talking about parallel, I think they're 2 8-inch lines, I
Okay,
think. This has been a long time in the making, I think they're 2 8-inch lines.
and we tap their main or they?
We're gonna actually put we would rent a floating barge and put it in their reservoir at the West Hurley Dike. And then that barge would have the pump on it, and the water would put a foot valve over, suck out of the reservoir into the pipe and put it in our
Oh,
reservoir.
okay, that's a little different than I thought. I thought you were like tapping into the aqueduct or something.
No, not at all.
Just right out of a reservoir.
And the good news is they're shutting down the aqueduct next year, so we wouldn't be impacted by that. The Delaware aqueduct is shutting down from May through October.
Yeah, I didn't realize we were gonna actually put a barge, I thought we were gonna actually throw a line that was in there that would come all the way.
We could have, we then have a pump on the ground. But DEP has had very good success in Newburgh with this barge situation. And so they really pushed us to do it that way, they like that. And the beauty of that is, and the wisdom in doing that, as if they have a drought and the water line recedes, as Jim is,
The
then.
permanent line might see where the water is.
Sticks out.
Right, then you gotta keep adding more
It's
pipe.
action on, this is,
Right.
will float out and you just move it around where the
Right.
deep, where the water is at the time.
Is this gonna be winter too, or?
Yeah,
Could
I
be-
mean, could be.
could be.
We went down, I swear to God, it was the coldest day in December. We went to visit the Newburgh installation at the DEP's invitation. And man, those things were running, and I mean, it was freezing. I know how to dress, and oh my God, it was.
Where were they pulling out of?
They're pulling out of Washington, they were actually pulling out of Washington, Browns Pond and Washington Lake down there. They were pulling out of one, Browns Pond, which is small. They were augmenting it at a New York City aqueduct. New York City aqueduct literally runs through right by the Newburgh water reservoir. And so they were pulling out of one with a siphon and then another, and they were actually pulling out, they were pushing water from the New York City aqueduct into the pond, and then floating by gravity from the pond into their system. That's what they were doing that time. They were kind of doing the reverse.
Right, because they had, Washington Lake had all that,
Washington Lake had the contamination,
PFAS, the PFAS.
yeah.
and Brown's Pond is too small to be able to, you
So
know,
all that other, the barge and the
Yeah.
other piping is all gonna be
rented.
rented if we have a problem.
Yeah, and with the weather pattern, who knows?
The nice thing is it's permanent, right? So if in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we ever get in a situation where we need New York City's assistance.
Well, we still have to rent,
Yeah, we
the
have to
barge
run
and the
stuff,
piping.
all of your.
But I think the next step would be to apply for a grant under some sort of emergency assistance, maybe with the town of Ulster, because we're connected to them, and then you could
just run the
run a
line,
permanent line. I mean, that's a big undertaking, but
at least from Dyke Road all the way out to
There
where
may
it
be-
connects into our transmission line on Sawkill.
there may be
Make that
money,
all permanent.
right, there may be money available to do that under, you know, they do grants and there's requirements tied to those grants, so we may be eligible for that in the future, which would be nice. But we've got the makings for that. Before, we had to reinvent all this all the time, and it was.
But that would probably come with restrictions and what you can use your water for and stuff like
You know, I know, but New York City
that.
has,
Probably wouldn't be able to sell
We also have to buy the water from New York City.
you're gonna buy it, it's like $1,800 a million
No,
gallons,
it's
it
not
ain't
cheap.
free.
It's not cheap.
It ain't cheap. And we'd have to treat it, so we still have that cost on there. But they've done a tremendous job. I mean, for a community system like New York that never had meters up until 20 years ago. They've really done an amazing job on getting their per capita consumption through conservation. So, I mean, I don't know how great their leak detection is, but they have, you know, have all kinds of sponsor, all kinds of programs to give people water conservation, low flow toilets, cooling tower things. And so their per capita consumption is less than ours. So they're only gonna give you their per capita consumption times the population served. And that happens in all through Westchester too. So it would be us and the town of Ulster, and we could add it together, but we still wouldn't get our daily demand, and that's why I keep trying to push that demand down. I don't think we want to necessarily, you know, buy all our water from somebody else. But it's a,
It's the safety.
yeah, it's a good backup plan. Anyway. So, we're mobilizing, we have an MWB issue that I'm gonna try to resolve a little bit tomorrow. Greg and I are gonna have a little chat about that, and we got the DEP issue, so, I mean, I think we're moving forward.
And you think they're gonna actually start doing,
As the paper said, by August 1st, I think they're gonna do something, and the first thing they have to do is these show canopy. They can do stuff at Cooper at the same time. Tomorrow I am meeting with our neighbors across the street. This is an unfortunate circumstance. These are nice ladies, it's a mother and a daughter, they're like our eyes and ears up there, they call the police when necessary, they're good neighbors.
they're across the street?
Across 212,
Okay.
across the street, yeah. Right across from our house, the old house. Their wells dry because our reservoir's down. I mean, I know that's why it's down, why their well is dry, because Cooper Lake, it has natural springs feeding it, and when the reservoir is full, the weight of the water doesn't allow those springs to come into the reservoir, and they feed the local shallow wells. They've only a 13-foot dug well. And I've had other people complain about this. I don't know what I'm happy to meet with them and talk to them, but I don't believe that there's any solution. I mean, it's not like we can raise the level of the reservoir and go, oh, geez, we'll just.
The solution is they should drill a well.
Well, what I'm gonna try to nicely tell them is they live in the town of Woodstock, and Bill McKenna is a really nice guy, he's their supervisor, and they are actually within the confines of the water district. They just don't have any, so they should petition him to run the water lines up to them. That's really the
Well,
solution.
where is the last?
Oh, it's down,
Yeah, it's
it's
miles.
smart.
He's not gonna do that.
No, he's not. And he knows I'm gonna tell him that, so.
Yeah.
nothing I can do.
Yeah. well driller, and you can drill well, go down more than 13 feet.
We got point wells in our neighborhood deeper than that, you know what I mean?
I know it's
Just pounded it.
Yeah.
I don't know how, sound the wood they had.
it's not.
No, not very good at all.
No.
I think I want to drink it.
That's why you want to drill well, that's properly sealed.
Spoken well, I'll let Parker tell you that it is. Yeah, you take a lot of the, this is off the topic, but I tested enough water along Sawkill Road where it's all that fractured bluestone. And it's pretty, right in the town of Kingston, it's pretty densely populated. And a lot of their wells are acting as, tertiary treatment for their neighbor septic systems. It's disgusting, disgusting. You're like, oh God.
And don't go down by, and get the water out of the spring either, because.
No, now you know.
No, I tell you.
You
To
know,
all the people with those bottles throwing.
Oh, yeah, it's every once in a while, it's thing on Facebook about.
you know
How
you're
great the
liable,
water is down
you
there.
know you're liable if somebody gets sick from that, right?
It's town of Ulster.
Well, he's talking about the one in town Ulster.
Yeah, but the one in the city of Kingston, same thing.
At the bottom.
Huh?
The bottom.
Yeah, because the city actually moved that. That used to be across the street. When Gallo did the sewer work and all that. But there's a law, no, it's just, the only person that's on here is Bob.
You're recording it, right?
And we'll talk about that some other time.
Okay, good.
Sorry about that.
Okay, is that it for Cooper Lake?
Yes, sir.
Okay, transmission main rehab project.
We're all set to go on that. We hope to have both the Schultz Construction and ourselves, we were hoping to have that all done by July 4th. It's a very doable project, very quick. We can't get materials. We're still waiting. We can't get, a couple of sticks of 20-inch pipe. I've got the hydrants that they couldn't get, and I've gotten the couplings that they needed, but I don't, the valves and things, we're waiting on. They were 12 weeks out. It's all being blamed on COVID.
And everything.
I'm not, to a certain extent, I think there's some validity to it when factories shut down, they have to gear up for production. Demand is up, so, yeah, I guess. Anyway, we're in progress. Everybody hopes to put this to bed soon. We have a deadline that we have to meet to be able to get the funding, so.
When's the deadline?
Matt, talk to him about that.
It's not quite as hard a deadline as we had originally thought, because we sent the change order to them and they can calculate the grant off the change order. So we just have to stay within that to get the full, so they're gonna do the grant, close it long-term this coming December like they were originally planning. But because the change order has been signed, even if the work isn't done until next spring,
Be okay.
you'll
We're
see it's
until
still
next
okay.
spring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Schultz wants to close this out. They want, they want to get out of here. They want everything done, and so do we. We're hemorrhaging 200,000 gallons a day. I'd like that cleared up. Especially if we're, operating with Cooper Lake being down. We have everything to do the line repairs.
There's no other place to maybe borrow and
No,
reimburse
I mean,
later on?
with the valves, no, we need 5 or 6. And we have to buy American because it's part of the grant. So if you buy non-American, i.e. Canadian, that would take me 6 weeks to get, and we're already past this, so we should be getting them by August.
Yeah.
We should. We're not getting them, they should be getting them. So, we pulled every string, we called everybody we could to from the manufacturer, between CDM, between Paul at CDM and the people at Schultz and myself. They're just, nobody can.
Okay. We had 2020.
They're working on the bid specs. We finalized the valves that we identified to be replaced, and we should be moving on that soon. They're already doing the programming aspect to make improvements to SCADA. That work is already in progress.
So we have to go out and bid though, once the bid specs are done.
We'd have to go out to bid on the valve work, yes, and yes, that would have to all be done. But the SCADA work, no, because we've
Okay, well, we've done that.
We hired CDM Smith to do that work as part of our engineering work. It's really a bad idea to farm out your programming, you know, like that, it doesn't actually work well.
And pump station.
Well, it's functional, yeah.
Looks good.
It does. But Matt can kind of give us a rundown of where we are with the insurance company.
So we received one payment for about $24,000. And the holdup is the adjusters, the company had sold, so everything was transferred from one firm to another, and it's really delaying the review process. I spoke with State Farm, which was the insurance of the driver, our insurance, our agent, and I'm being told by next week I'll have a better idea of when the payments are expected. But I was told that everything we submitted can be directly related to the impact caused, the damage caused by the car, it should be covered under our policy.
Including excessive amounts of overtime to turn the pumps on and off.
So what do you think, what was the total?
We're at 96,000 right now, and I'm waiting on one more invoice from a race.
We haven't gotten a raises bill.
What's this coverage?
I don't know. When I talked to John about an hour ago, he was waiting to hear back from Marshall and Sterling. They were gonna call State Farm and get an idea of where he was at. From my initial conversations with State Farm, it sounded like it was around 75. He didn't confirm that, but the way he said it, he told me if it went over 75, and they might have trouble with it, so.
You just have to be careful that they pursue the wrongdoer for that, for those sums, because that will come off your insurance,
Experience rating.
your experience rating big time.
I know State Farm has already got a bill for the first check that was cut to us.
Which is 26, 24.
24.
But who cut that check?
That came from our insurance.
Our insurance.
And then
They
they
billed
sold,
State Farm for it.
yeah,
But your insurance company has to pursue the wrongdoer, not only for what they pay to you, the shoot deductible, they also have to give what your deductible.
1,000.
I think we approach.
no, we never had, we always get recovered from $1. That's a recent, maybe the last 5 or 6 years that we even had that kind of a deductible. Yeah, no, it's certainly manageable.
So when you say it's functional, is it all up and running?
It's all back to normal.
Okay.
It looks actually really good inside. Jim Carey, although we're still waiting on his bill, he did an awesome job with, you know, cleaning up the piping and the electric work. McGowan did a great job on the masonry. The doors actually are gonna make it, when you're working in there, you can open them up, it's brighter. We're gonna put in a concrete pad there if we have to load those, to be able to bring a backhoe or something and to load out the pumps if we ever needed to. But the actual estimate from McGowan to do a solid brick wall and replace the brick wall as it was when the guy hit it was more expensive than if we put those 6-foot doors. These doors are cheaper than the masonry one. Anyway. So,
We got it during the tour.
what?
You got it during the tour.
We can, sure we can. Sure we can.
Running floor.
So we are.
Well, now that COVID's.
We could,
I mean, it was
we
one
can.
of the stumbling blocks for the last year and a half or so. So,
A couple of the older men, I think, want to do one, I just think that. It's,
Are
you
are
know,
they up for election this year?
and the one that's been bugging me about it the most, or asking me about it most often, is the guy who's not running again, is Don Holland. So, I mean, I'd be happy to give him a tour as a businessman or any other time.
Really the board is most important. Board.
Let's let Cooper Lake get going and then
Yeah.
have a nice tour up there.
Moving on to Quarry Street.
We have a stumbling block there. The school district has indicated that they want to continue to work with us and replace their half of the line at the same time we do ours, but we can't get any response from their attorney. Bill has sent her his draft of what a proposed agreement is. She has, I'm paraphrasing Bill, our conversation, but she's indicated that she thinks it needs to be more formal than what Bill proposed, yet she has not proposed.
She backed off that. She said,
Oh.
I said, we don't need it, if you don't need it. She said, all right, I'm happy with that. She sent it on to Tom Clapper at the school district.
Which we
I
did,
sent it to Tom Clapper, I sent a copy to
Right. Alan Olson,
to her as well, and
Yeah.
Alan Olson. And I've called, I've left messages, I don't get a reply
from her or Alan?
from Tom Clapper.
Okay, I don't know, Alan, I've sent him, I got Tom's cell phone.
Oh, I have a cell phone.
I do.
I do too.
I do, but Tommy, Tommy,
It's a matter that had to get, what they left it is, it had to go to the Board of Education. And the meeting was, I think, the following Wednesday, but I don't know if they ever presented it.
I have sent numerous emails to Alan Olson, and Alan will not even give me the courtesy of a reply. So I don't know what else to do.
I told Judy earlier, I think what I'm gonna do is write a letter tomorrow, because as you saw in the minutes here, where the message Judy sent out, that if they don't get it done by a certain time, you might have to proceed just to your half.
Well, we are already past, by the time you look, with the material shortage that we have, and because there's there's gonna have to be blasting. We should have let this contract a month or two ago, because there's no way you can get it done between now and Labor Day when the school opens. So there's two options. First, one is to just do our piece and tell them to heck with it and let it go. The other is to just tell them, well, we're gonna proceed, but we're gonna be doing it during school, and you're gonna have to figure that out.
They won't do that. They won't want that.
Well, then, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, but our line's not gonna, I mean, they're still gonna have water through our lawn. through the line.
Correct, but the mayor has postponed paving that street so we can get this done, and they're holding us up. And they're the people that are complaining most bitterly about the condition of the street.
And so, I mean, I think that, and they're used, when we paved Shirley Avenue, they had to detour
Yeah,
up and around. So Bailey, they do have the alternate access. They don't love it to have to go up. to
they don't love it, but let's
They
do
can
it.
do it for a
Right.
few weeks. But I will say that, I mean, if there's something that you'd like me to share with the superintendent
Yeah,
directly, I talk to him frequently and would be happy to put this higher up on his radar that, he really controls the board agenda.
I would love
Yes.
Mr. Olson or somebody to just bring this to their attention and to move this
If you have a
forward.
draft agreement that you'd be willing to share with me,
I'll send
I
it.
can-
I have to.
Send it to you.
I can send it to Paul and say, hey,
Sure.
we need to get
It's
this
just a letter, all they do is sign over the letter and say, we agree, we're not gonna do any
No,
formal contract on it, because it's a very cut and dried
I'd be
situation.
happy to do
I mean, is it
that.
too late now? I mean, we're in July.
You're in July, and so you have to get the contractors on board, you have to be out in the street for,
We have to go out the bid,
you
right?
have to go out to bid for 2-3 weeks, so we're already past that time. But, so the only alternative is postponing
You're
it,
not
which
gonna
is,
start, you're not gonna get construction done and finished before
no,
September, Labor Day. Yeah.
not with a contract, not with a contract that's gonna take you long. But you might get it done by the end of November, if you got it done now, they're gonna have to deal with the detour.
Okay.
It's just a bunch of
Because
angry.
if not, we're gonna end up having another 6 water main breaks in Carter Street, right, all winter.
Yeah,
And so,
we'd like to get it done before the winter.
Yeah.
And they'll just have to deal with the detour.
And I think he'd like to pay, yeah, at some point. I mean, it's been postponed from that, it's on the list and keeps, whatever.
so I'm at least happy to try.
Okay,
And
thank you.
there that I would, and you give me his cell phone number before.
I have a cell phone number,
Or you, whatever, tomorrow, call.
yeah, I talk to Tommy all the time. You have a little leverage, his son works for him. What you say? No, Tommy's very cooperative, Tommy really wants to.
Nice person.
Tom wants this done because he's the facilities manager, and he knows that, half of those water main breaks that we repaired were on school district property, and we just did them, we repaired them because we assumed they were ours, and now we know better. So, I will give you that.
Okay, Tech City?
You want to make executive session talk about that?
Yeah, I just have a question for you. What's the amount that is owed by Tech City? Is it now?
91,000.
Does it go up every month?
Not necessarily. It would go up every month if they don't hit their minimum, but they are hitting the minimum due to a leak.
Okay.
So it has not gone up.
But you're
So-
still $91,000.
Thereabouts.
$91,000.
Tomorrow he can give you the exact figure, but yes, or maybe give it to you now, but it's about $91,000, yes.
Well, I already made my recommendation last meeting. Just wait for a spot from the board to say that to an open meeting.
So, I mean,
Nobody has anything to say, I'm not doing anything. I brought it up last meeting, so.
I think as a contractual matter, we could talk a little bit about it in executive session. I have some personnel issues to do, and then, we should, I think that would make more sense.
So what are we getting, or whatever, we're billing monthly, right? We bill them monthly,
Yeah.
and so what are we getting then, since we made
We've
meeting?
been billing them almost $8,000 the last 3-4 months. So their current bill is $7,900 and the current outstanding is $90,000.
Is that penalties? Are there penalties involved?
Yes,
That includes penalties?
it does.
I mean, how much of that 90,000 is actual, can you break it down for water that was never paid for versus not meeting the minimum?
What's the difference? I don't understand.
Well, I mean, if I'm using water, but I'm not paying for it versus the contractual obligation to buy 50,000 gallons.
Okay, I
If
understand.
the contract says you're supposed to pay for 50,000 gallons a month, but you're only using 20,000, but you're paying for the 20,000,
That's what's happening.
okay.
All the water that's being consumed there is being paid for by one of the tenants.
Right, but there was a time at that 90,000 where we didn't get paid for anything before.
Yeah, there was a period.
There was a period. You can break all that out.
If you could break that down, that would be helpful, just to say, okay, out of
Yeah,
the 90,000, it's, $30,000 worth of water was actually used that went through the meter that was never paid for. There's $30,000 that were owed to us
contractually.
contractually, but they never used it, and there's $10,000 worth of penalties. I mean,
The number, he has all those numbers,
Okay,
yeah.
that'd be helpful, Rick.
Okay.
So we can talk more on in the executive session then, right? Chemical bid.
So we went out to bid on our chemicals. It's always a good idea to do that. But what prompted it this time really was chlorine prices are doubling and tripling as a result of a hurricane back in April, back down south. And we got force majeure letters telling us that, they may not even be able to supply us, which is a scary letter to get when you're a water utility. Wastewater utilities got the same kinds of letters. We were assured by our suppliers that they could meet the supply, but we were just gonna have to pay a lot more. Which in and of itself wasn't terrible, except the Jones contract, which is our major gas chlorine supplier, was expiring. So Matt went out and went to bid on the chlorine prices and the lime while we were at it. And he's got the results.
So we got for the hypochlorite, we had 2 bids. Slack Chemical was $1.297 per gallon. And we had another bid of 1.427 from Surpass Chemical. And then hydrated lime, we only had 1 bid of 0.298 per pound. And then the gas chlorine was 2 bids, Slack Chemical of 1.823 and Jones JCI 1.5 per pound.
And
What's current?
I'm sorry.
What are we paying?
right, that's the important stuff.
The hypochlorite is going up 0.315 from where we were. The lime is 0.085. and the chlorine gas is 0.867.
You don't have a breakdown, like how much a pound?
That's per pound and per gallon, so the HECO is per gallon, the 0.315 per gallon. The lime is 0.085 per pound,
So,
and the chlorine gas is 0.867 per pound.
This is the
so,
That's the delta, yeah. So it was 0.633 and now it's
What percent, what's the percent,
137,
percent there?
137%.
some may use the word price gouging. I've heard it a few times from my colleagues, but anyway, to give you a sense of what that translates into dollars is, in June of this year, we used about 1,300 pounds of gaseous chlorine and about 1,300 pounds of liquid chlorine. So the slack chemical. What really increased was the gaseous chlorine. And that's consistent every month.
I know it's going up just because regular
Oh, on your pool.
recreational pools,
Sure.
they're all coming right now.
Yes, I think the manufacturing facilities supposedly were devastated in this.
So who do we get our chemicals from right now? Slack?
Same,
Chemical, with the lowest ones for all three of these are who we get it from now. So the JCI for the gas is who we get it from most recently. And Slack is also sodium hypochlorite and the hydrated lime are all Slack right now as well.
so in this current budget year, we budgeted $55,000 for treatment chemicals. I would say majority of that is chlorine, so that is gonna go up quite a bit in next year's budget. It's just,
Gasoline.
well, and I guess when the manufacturing capacity returns, the price is gonna go down. I don't know.
But if you
So-
stop all
so
those
we
leaks,
have
you won't
budgeted-
treat as much water though, right?
Yeah, in some cases, I mean, the variable cost of our water is getting more expensive, but it's still pretty low. But yeah, you're right, if we can reduce our consumption, we can offset those increases, absolutely.
So if we have budgeted 55,000 for chemicals in the current budget.
Yeah.
What do you anticipate based upon these prices?
You said 137% it went up, right?
Yeah. For the chlorine gas, yeah.
And chlorine gas
So we're talking 100 and,
is
At
probably
least 100%.
probably
so
100,000,
probably 130,000 then?
maybe 100.
100% is 110,
Right,
right? 55
times two.
times 2.
It's not all chlorine gas in the 55.
Okay.
What we can do is based on we can take an average of the chemicals, with the pounds of chemicals that we've used in the last 3 or 5 years. And I apologize, we probably should have done this before this meeting. And using the new prices, we can figure out what the cost increase will be.
Well, the current contracts that we're under right now are good until when?
Well, we just, that's why we went out to bid, because Jones was gonna jack us up even more unless we went to bid.
So these would take effect tomorrow.
If
So
the
do you
board
need a
approves,
motion to
yes, we
accept the
do.
bids?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What you're telling us, we don't have no other options.
I don't know of any other water utility that, we're mandated to disinfect the chlorine.
Right.
Is there anything in the bid that would allow that if prices go down in 6 months, that they would adjust the price downward?
If we do it with fuel oil, you know,
Oh, the option, whether you buy off the barge and all that, remember that?
Like, I wonder, if with electric pricing, you can lock in 6-month window terms, you could do a year term, you could do
That's true.
18-month term. I mean, maybe we could do a shorter term. Or yes, we'll do a contract for 3 months, then yes, we have to go back out to bid again, but we could then get different pricing in 3 months, especially if it's a matter of getting the factory back online and that the thought is that eventually these prices are gonna come back down. I mean, maybe we end up locking ourselves into a whole year worth of,
We can do that. We can see it's a lot.
it's a risk, right? Because we could
Absolutely,
go
that's
out
on
to
the
bid in
outside.
3 months and the price is even higher then.
Right.
And so, I mean, I think that's you guys to weigh, but it is something that maybe consider some risk there. I mean, especially when prices are so volatile. it's hard to kind of lock into
No, you're right.
for a material like that, just like with fuel prices, like, we really don't wanna, we wouldn't wanna lock into today's $3 a gallon when, you know, they say it may go down a few cents in a couple months, I don't know.
Well, yeah, no, I know, and let's have it, okay, you're talking to Summer right down there? Or in Jones?
Yeah, that's who's the main contact.
Right.
The bid document was, it did say for 1 year, I don't think there was anything in there for something like that, but
Let me call her tomorrow and see if we can, if they would give us some downside protection, or if they would allow us to shorten the term to 6 months.
You can negotiate with the lowest bidder.
Yeah.
Something different.
Right, no, I know.
So is there anything we need to do tonight?
Well, we probably need to award the contract, but
Just a line contract?
lime and slack, and slack is hypochlorite,
Okay, because both of those
or slack. Right?
yes.
We need hypochlorite, both of those will also, the term starts tomorrow.
oh, okay.
So you can award those and let me talk to Jones and see what's going on, and they're charging us more than that now, right?
The last one, we had that email and we got the invoice, it was the same exact,
As the bid price?
no, as the previous invoice, so I don't know what that whole email was about there.
I think one hand doesn't know what the
Yeah,
left hand, I know what that's all about.
But we got the invoice and they charged us the 0.633, even though.
Yeah.
So Slack is the lower bid on the hypo
Yeah. The line.
And the line.
Only
and the line. But you said Jones is Jones the cheaper one on the gas?
Yes,
Yeah,
Okay.
in fact, they're the only ones who bid the gas,
the Slack bid as
Oh,
well,
Slack,
they
yeah.
were 30 cents higher.
because I think Slack buys theirs from Jones, that's just my sense.
Slack is the only bidder for the line.
Correct.
Right. There's another big player out there that Suffolk County Water Authority uses, that New York City DEP uses, but we don't use enough for them to even talk to us.
So could we give Judy the authorization to award all 3 bids to the lowest bidder, and
After our
then
conversation.
in the end, you can decide to then award or not award that last contract? Would that be,
Yeah.
okay?
How would that, should that be worded?
Well, we've given authority to, you know, on awarding of bids, subject to certain terms and conditions to be resolved either by me or by Judy.
Yeah, we've done that.
Okay. So we need
So
a motion.
why don't you do a motion with respect to the two that you know that you're going to accept?
Correct,
those?
right.
Why don't you do those two first, and then on the chlorine, do them as a separate motion? Does that sound good?
Well, we have,
I thought Judy was gonna talk to him one last time and see if,
well, the line is only one bidder, so
Right.
that one there isn't, but on the other
Well, and
two,
but that price still went up for Lime, right? But not
Yeah.
They all went up,
Yeah, they all went
Oh,
up.
no.
but not that much,
not
right?
that much, right? So that one really hasn't fluctuated a lot since the last time you bid that
No.
price, right? But the hypo went up not as high.
The hypo went up.
Yeah.
Hypo is
Still-
been-
32%, 40%, and 137%.
So I guess it just depends on, you know, speaking to some of your other colleagues, you know, figuring out whether a 40% price increase is on par, and are they signing up for 1-year contracts, or are they doing something smaller?
Yeah, no.
So maybe,
You think you get together with other municipalities for a larger bid? Town of Ulster, for example, or
No.
Stock, or anybody else?
No, because it's all about the delivery, right?
I don't know.
A lot of it's about the delivery, and you have to be able to take so much. There's minimum deliveries. We're 150-pound cylinders for a gas chlorine. Poughkeepsie, as an example, uses 1-ton cylinders. Town of Ulster, I don't know what they use. I don't know what they
nobody
use.
Sopex, they probably use quite a bit.
That's me, between the Sofas and Kingston and Ulster.
Yeah, and we can look at, I mean, New York State contract would even be nicer to be able to have the state bid it for us.
Yeah.
We can check that out too. Another regional thing, I don't know, we can look at it.
There is a clause in here that says it may be terminated by Kingston Water Department in whole or in part with or without giving cause by providing the vendor with a 30-day advance written notice.
No, so we can just cancel it.
Oh, that's good.
That's good, so we can just
Does that
award it and cancel
Yeah, I mean,
But we know they're dropping,
It's
give
good.
3 days
30
notice.
day out. That's good.
it. I would think so. Yeah, you just didn't want in December when the prices are down, to be, you know. What happened when you were-
Good job, Bill. Putting that in.
Matt-
Who knows?
So then we want,
Matt wrote these bits. Just want to say.
Yeah, so I mean, I think if there's a 30-day out, then I'm fine just.
This is what I'm saying on that.
okay, so then need a motion to accept the lowest bidder on all 3 of the chemicals.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Any those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. Still do some homework, right?
Well, I'll call tomorrow, I'll ask her if they would, you know, if the pricing comes down, their pitch was that, they're being pinched by their suppliers, and so they're just having to pass that along. Well, if that eases up, are they willing to, you know?
Give us a break too.
And they should, knowing that there's a 30-day out clause. And they know that you're gonna be watching the chlorine market. by talking to
Absolutely,
your fellow-
absolutely.
Your fellow water authorities, and so it would be easy for them to say, yeah, pricing changes.
Jim and I are both members of the Water Utility Council, and there's a group of us on the council that actually share the commodity prices of our chemicals like once a year. Everybody puts their price, there's like a list, and you fill in the spreadsheet, your utility, and then we share it among everybody, so we know. The outliers are what New York City pays less than us because, you know, they're using, you know, 300 times what we're using, and so they get better pricing. Same thing with Suffolk County Water Authority. So, okay, thank you.
Correspondence?
We have one deferral, COVID-19 deferral form. Her bill is due the 20th of July, so she would have submitted it before then. I just want to make you aware of it. I'm not asking you to, you know, do anything on this. She filled out the form that we used. She lives in Woodstock. Has a property on Belmont Street. She had to give us a reason. You know, I live on my rental income. Last year I had no tenant paying the rent. I have an eviction case, but the eviction order makes it, non-eviction order makes it impossible. I had to pay all the taxes. And so I guess the only question I will respond to her with is, have you applied for landlord assistance for the rents? And she has, and of course, we're not gonna we wouldn't allow her to do this, but if she has in any way, you know, either received or applied for. And the way this works, I think the way is until her next bill comes out. So she would have to start making payments on this. Reasonable payments.
And we're beyond it.
Oh, we are. We have 180 days after that this applies to. The interesting thing is,
Can she reapply though next,
she could every time she gets a bill. She
for the
could.
next,
Yeah, for the next quarter. And she can do that. The only thing I would like to suggest is this person has owned this property 3 years. She has never paid a water bill. She always allows it to go over on her taxes. So I don't know if she completely understands what she's asking for. Because now she's gonna have to make at least a token payment on this water bill. And have it all paid up by 180 days from the day he lifted the
as
order.
opposed to not paying her bill,
And having to go on the taxes.
taxes?
So I just want her to, I mean, obviously, her bill's
She
200
must,
some
at
odd
some point
dollars,
in
it's
time,
not a big deal.
pay the taxes, right?
All the
Otherwise,
time,
she'll lose the bill.
otherwise, yeah, no, I don't think there's any issue with her taxes being paid. I
She
just,
just chooses to let
that's your choice.
everything go, including a 10% penalty.
I don't think she understands what she's applying.
I don't think so.
Okay, so
And-
you're gonna.
I'm gonna reach out.
Contact her and we'll deal with that
And
next month.
yes, and
Nothing.
English is not her native language, the landlord, so she may not understand this completely yet, maybe she does, I don't know. But she's signed her name in Chinese characters.
Oh.
Which is her legal signature. So I'm not sure she understands exactly what this is. And if she does, we'll grant it, it's not a big deal.
Is that something that we, as a board, need to even make a motion?
I don't-
We're bound
I think we're bound by the law.
law, so
And,
it's just,
and I think it's probably an administrative function, it's probably best left that way.
Yeah.
But we certainly, when she's filled out the paperwork, we asked her to do it, so.
superintendent's report?
It's a little sparse, but a little trouble typing.
So we actually had 10 new sets of meters in June.
That's what I said.
Okay.
Let me see.
Then you gotta make your total 11,
I'm sorry. Meter sets.
unless that's supposed to be 0.
That's supposed to be 1, yeah.
Supposed to be a
Yeah,
1?
Supposed to be a 1, new sets, we had 1 new account, yes.
Okay, so then it's already 2 then.
As I say, my left hand is not even close to being equal to my right. Typing this out normally takes me about an hour, this took about 3.
Okay, motion to accept the superintendent's report with
I'll make the motion.
minor.
I'll second it.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Awesome.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Recording.
Okay. In executive session.
Hang on, let me just turn the recording on. This is